The gavel falls and the courtroom waits in silence. Meri Brown stands, no longer a demure first wife, but a tempest at last declaring each of the betrayals. The courtroom lights tonight will not only expose a decision, they will lay bare a legacy, ready to witness who shatters and who restores. Leave your theory in the comments below. Was Meri too late, or was it the best time? The first noise isn't the gavel. It's the heel click of Meri against the highly polished floor, a metronome of determination that turns every head before the judge even glances up. The courtroom is alive, air vents thrumming, old wood exhaling a subtle resin odor, the dull glimmer of afternoon sunlight sliding over brass nameplates. Meri wears a midnight blue blazer, shoulders set, chin raised. She comes with her hands, not empty, but fistful with manila folders and a spiral notebook truth that you can't take back once you read it into the record. Kody sits at the defendant's table, arms crossed, jaw set like a padlock. Robyn sits next to him, her eyes big but protective, a tissue she refolds, ever so neatly into perfect squares, as if perfect proof could keep the day intact. Meri's voice is low at first, careful, almost too careful. Then it firms. She lays out the promise everyone remembers: 4 parcels, 4 futures, 1 family vision. The judge, a woman whose calm is steel with a velvet lining, asks for dates, documents, details. Meri gives them like stepping stones across a river she's already crossed in private. Behind her, Janelle leans forward, elbows on her knees, a silent amen in flesh. Christine is there as well, not on the witness stand, but in the strain, remembrances of questions she used to ask, questions Kody called disloyal. The gallery is full of faces who have witnessed this family form, fracture, and redefine its suffering as patience. If you were Meri, would you struggle for land, or for the years that were lost along with it? The defense narrows to an easy narrative. Kody offered the most. Kody spearheaded the scheme. Kody merits dominion. But the arithmetic of shared life isn't so straightforward. There's show pay, speaking payments, brand endorsements twined with sobbing and talking heads, all of it garnered by a chorus, not a solo. Meri opens a folder and pushes a photocopy through, records of payments, bank stamps, deposits marked in neat print. Another, an email thread that whispers rather than shouts. The judge reads, slow and deliberate. Kody's lawyer objects, but there is no floor for the objection to stand on. The basis is paper, and it's flat. In flashback, the narration switches. A Flagstaff afternoon, late sun on pine bark. Kody sketching lines in the dust with a stick. A porch here, a view there, he vows, and Meri nods because sometimes a vow is a life raft. The camera, your mind's camera, draws back to the here and now, to Meri stroking her thumb over the corner of a page like you would run your finger along the edge of a photo of who you once were. Janelle, sitting next to her, prints 3 words in block letters on her legal pad. We were there. Keep watching. One email on page 3 is going to make a misunderstanding a map of intent. The judge poses a final question for this session. Mrs. Brown, are you asking for division or compensation? Meri does not bat an eye. I'm asking for what was promised, she replies, in whatever manner the law provides. The clock on the door tick-ticks. Robyn's tissue rips all the way down the fold line, and the judge, seeing the time, calls for recess. People rise but don't exit. No one wants to miss the next gasp. Meri passes Kody on her return to her seat. He glares at her like a stranger, glares like one who never imagined she would speak. The cliff tumbles out from under everyone's feet. A clerk runs in with an envelope postmarked from an office of realty, months prior to the time anyone knew, and the judge instructs counsel to come near. The gallery leans in as the seal is broken. It's not the paper that causes the room to breathe, it's the date. The date pierces the defense like a headlight slices through fog. The envelope produces a chain, a draft of the deed, an internal memorandum, a short receipt stamped received. The sequence counts. The sequence always counts. The judge reads the top sheet, then pushes it in a respectful arc towards both tables. We will deal with admissibility, she says, but at first blush this goes to notice and intent. Kody's jaw muscles work for him. He doesn't say a word while his lawyer speaks for him. Preliminary paperwork. Exploratory. Not binding. Preliminary papers are blueprints you can pick up and move ahead with. They tell you who's holding the tape measure and who's being told to stand still. Robyn fidgets, uncrosses, recrosses her ankles. Meri doesn't budge. Stillness speaks the loudest language in the room. Janelle's turn arrives like weather changing. She speaks in plain sentences made of lived hours. Tax notices, a trip to the county office, a clerk who pulled up records and frowned. I realized, she says, realized I'd been paying toward land my name wasn't on. The judge asks for corroboration. Janelle nods to her attorney, who sets down printouts, payments in, taxes out, a ledger that reads like a story, because it is. Speed gut check. Do you think preliminary can remain a promise when the folks paying were never informed it did? Cross-examination attempts to muddy the lines. Aren't you not sure about constructing? Janelle's response is a question in and of itself. Is doubt a legal justification for wiping a person out? The gallery hears several soft breaths. A reporter's pen taps twice, halts. The judge instructs counsel to stay with the facts. So they do. The facts accumulate. An email from a broker suggests haste. Advise we finalize titles before intra-family negotiations complicate logistics. Logistics. The word does neat work of concealing what it bears. Flashback storytelling leaves us at a dinner table. 4 plates, paper napkins, construction plans such as placemats. Christine inquires about utilities. Janelle inquires about easements. Robyn inquires about closets. Meri remains quiet and observes the manner in which Kody's hand guides the pen through 4 squares of vow. Present tense once more, that same hand taps the table now, restless. Hang with this, someone's going to say the quiet part out loud, and it's going to realign your perception of the entire plan. The defense summons their real estate contact, who stumbles over a straightforward question. Who told you to put speed ahead of family consultation? He evades. Then he says Kody. The judge's pen freezes. Counsel objects on wording overruled. The point remains. From the rear row, a process server rises and holds up a thin binder, supplemental disclosures. The judge allows the filing. Inside, an email chain with a subject line no one can unhear. Finalize before questions. The subject line isn't shouting. It's cutting, it sneaks between defense and doubt, and opens a scene you can't sew shut. We read along in the mind's eye as the lawyer for Meri takes slow, deliberate steps. Your Honor, this thread creates sequence, awareness, and coordination. The first email is Kody's, let's wrap up titles, too many cooks will hold things up. The second is a response. Agreed. Better to finish filings before questions create a mess. The third, Robyn's, is like the final piece of the puzzle. We don't want it to get messy. Let's get it over before they catch on. A commotion in the gallery. The judge requests quiet. The words are not a verdict, but they are an opening. Robyn gets up on the stand. Her hands clench, unclench. Her voice searches for the safe beach of I didn't know. But the tide keeps pulling it back. I believed him, she tells us. And belief is not a bulletproof vest in this space. It is a road that also has to account for what it gets to. Meri observes with a granite face that recalls being river mud. Kody fixes on his cuffs, then the ceiling light, then on nothing at all. If trust signed the papers, who bears the burden when trust was used as a tool? Cross X is gentle and biting, like a surgeon gentle and biting. Did you sign forms putting packages in only 2 names? Yes. Did you know others thought there was a 4-way split? At the time, I thought plans were changed. Who told you that? Silence. The courtroom discovers a new definition for the word heavy. The narrative expands. We exit in remembrance to a winter hillside at Coyote Pass, the wind weaving a chill sweater that any cardigan could not. Meri once stood there, coat pockets stuffed with hands, attempting to sense a future that kept dropping off like powder snow from a boot. In voice-over she recites, waiting doesn't build houses. Back inside, the judge inclines forward. Miss Brown, the younger Robyn, you should realize, failing to read carefully is not an excuse when you profit thoroughly. The defense pivots to numbers. They love numbers because numbers feel certain. 92%. Kody repeats, a figure he wields like a flashlight in a storm. But the battery is low. Meri's attorney asks where the 92 came from. Which streams, which accounts, which signatures. The room starts understanding that shared income can't be conveniently singular once it hits the ledger. Don't blink. One line item is about to separate who paid from who. Performed the labor that got paid. They trace deposits from a joint production payment into an account that funded land fees, while Meri's boutique deposits and Janelle's checks amortize tax burdens and surveys. The arithmetic becomes a testimony of labor, some on screen, some in silence, all of it co-authored. The judge fixes tomorrow for closing evidence. As the people rise, a courier rushes in with a flash drive from the network, a law-approved clip reel. The room will witness what the edit omitted. The lights dim, and history ceases to be a rumor. On the screen, timestamps flash like heartbeat monitors announcing who lived in each promise. The reel starts unused bits, take after take where nobody was acting for the cut. Kody at a picnic table, sketching quadrants. Legacy, he says, tapping wood. Equal, another clip, Meri asking, even if the law changes? Kody reply laughs, warm and certain, in every way that matters. The words bloom and then bruise. As the next clip rolls, an office candid Kody on the phone. We'll fast-track titles. Family meetings slow this kind of thing. He doesn't say who's in the room. The camera doesn't need him to. Robyn's breath accelerates in the now. She forms a silent prayer or apology. Janelle glances down at her hands and nods once, as if a person hearing an echo finally respond. The judge regards them impassively, her pen set aside parallel to the legal pad. The room learns what cuts conceal and what uncut footage reveals. Namely, that context is a confession. When you look at the promise in your own eyes, does it alter the way you listen to the excuse? The defense is for intent, aspirational talk, TV language, family morale, but the reel contains more than pep. The reel contains planning, stakes surveyed in a frozen frame, Kody pacing off, counting out loud, a producer querying, 4 houses, Kody smiling 4. The next clip is subdued, Meri sitting on a porch step by herself, talking into the dusk that she wants to believe, not in land, in being counted. Back to live testimony. Meri is back on the stand, and the narration drops to a gentler register. She does not testify like a plaintiff anymore. She testifies like someone who has concluded that a life can begin anywhere in the middle. I stayed, she tells us. I kept hoping the story had a middle I hadn't reached yet. The gallery cradles that sentence like you cradle a warm mug, 2 hands with caution. The judge poses one question which will haunt Miss Brown. What would justice look like to you? Meri ponders. Justice looks like not being erased. Consider the bravery required in demanding your name back when the one who stole it sits nearby. The segment ends in a procedural beat. Exhibits received, objections maintained, but the emotions don't tidy up. When the judge calls for a brief recess, Kody stands up suddenly. His chair scrapes. For 1 second, you catch sight of the patriarch in him attempting to reboot the room. Then stumbling, he sits. He adjusts his tie that doesn't need adjusting. A bailiff steps forward with a message. The judge reads it, then glances up. We will continue with Mr. Brown's testimony, under oath and under clarification of financial distribution. The term clarification falls like thunder you hear only after the lightning. There is a drop in temperature you feel when the fellow who wrote the rules is called to read them aloud. Kody is sworn in, voice firm, eyes channeled into the safe area just above the judge's head. Scaffolding questions are first. Names, titles, dates. Then the structure constricts. Who made the determination about how show income was allocated? He orbits, attempts to make it a committee of atmosphere. Ultimately, the lawyer asks. Ultimately, I approved. The court reporter's keys clack like hail on a tin roof. They follow the money, not the deposits, but the reasoning. Kody calls up leadership. Duty, the weight of foresight. He invokes the number again. 92, and the story sweeps the field wider. How a number can be true and also be untrue, depending on where you are when you count. The lawyer inquires who did the invisible work. Shooting days when you want to sob. Interviews when you'd prefer to be mute. Sponsorships that wouldn't happen without the wives' faces and the children's giggles. Was that work accounted for on the balance sheet? A 1 lifetime and 3 seconds pause. It was complicated. When complicated covers the bills, who gets to hold the receipt? Robyn observes him, something cracking and hardening at the same time. She is not free of the decision, but neither is she constructed to bear them single-handedly. Meri sits upright, not in rebellion, but in conformity with herself. Janelle's pen lies still. The notes are concluded. The story writes itself now. The judge interrupts. Mr. Brown, did you inform Miss Brown, either of them, of deed transfers ahead of time? No? Did you utilize shared money to obtain titles excluding them? Yes. Do you think that was consistent with previous representation? I thought it was necessary. The judge's silence speaks volumes about what the law will ultimately put into words. The story shifts to the gallery for a pause. Faces that witness their own dreams reduced to paper, their own signatures omitted from contracts and credit. There is anger here, indeed, but also acknowledgement, the kind that incites strangers into a silent panel of the human heart. Stay. His next response isn't loud, but it's the moment the power in this room shifts hands. Mr. Brown. The voice of the attorney becomes soft, nearly benevolent. Do you regret that you didn't tell them? He has many things to say. He says, I regret that it came to this. The room takes note of the distinction. The judge does as well. Counsel, she commands. Prepare closing. The clock marks the hour. Outside, clouds assemble like a curtain before a finale. As the judge stands up, a soft rumble of thunder sounds across the ceiling. Tomorrow is the day the verdict comes, or the day the court commands a remedy nobody can spin. Meri collets her folders, breathes once, and for the first time in years, walks out not behind someone, but ahead. Opening micro hook to this section. The last act of truth starts not in words but in silence. The silence that buzzes before a storm. When everyone senses something irrevocable is about to happen. The courthouse is different the next morning. Even the marble floor feels chillier under the glow of fluorescent lights. News vans are parked outside on the street, satellite dishes whirling upwards like mechanical flowers searching for a signal. Inside, the courtroom is filled to capacity. Fans, media, estranged relatives, all have come for what will surely be the most significant testimony up to this point. Meri enters first, shoulders squared, posture straight, face serene. But under that serenity is a current, the kind that carves canyons. Janelle enters, a steady presence on her flank, legal pad clutched like a weapon of quiet conviction. Across the aisle, Kody enters late. His face is gaunt, and the bravado that once surrounded him like armor has begun to unravel. Robyn lingers in the background, holding a leather binder tight to her chest, her lips moving soundlessly as if in prayer. The judge enters, and the whole room rises to its feet. Upon sitting down, she gets straight to business. Brown, she states matter-of-factly, this court will now hear closing testimony about your financial choices, property allocations, and your management of joint funds. Kody clears his throat. His lawyer sets a soothing hand upon his shoulder, but it fails to prevent the slight quiver in his voice. For the first time, Kody attempts a new strategy, one that feels almost foreign to him. Vulnerability. I made mistakes, he starts, speaking in a tone that is measured carefully. But everything I did for the family. I bore the weight of the money. I made sure we had a future. I was the provider. But the opposing attorney is prepared. Mr. Brown, she cuts in brusquely. Would you characterize excluding your wives from legal ownership? Wives who economically, emotionally, and openly contributed to the very enterprises that finance this property, as part of taking care of your family. Undefined. Kody fidgets in his seat. I didn't exclude them. I just prioritized efficiency. Efficiency is not justice, and prioritizing power is not the same as protecting a family. Undefined. The courtroom hums with whispers. Meri's lawyer approaches the bench and clicks on a small screen. A presentation of financial records, emails, and legal filings. This, she says, pointing to the screen, is a timeline of Mr. Brown's actions, each one deliberate, each one showing intent to consolidate control. Slide by slide, the truth unravels. Deposits made by Meri, property tax receipts paid by Janelle, contracts signed under the premise of equality, all leading to deeds signed only by Kody and Robyn. The gallery is silent, the tension like glass about to crack. Kody's composure begins to slip. I built this, he blurts out suddenly, voice rising. I'm the one who made this family possible. Without me there is no show, no income, no land. The judge's gaze sharpens. Mr. Brown, she warns, this is a courtroom, not a stage. Control your tone. Janelle inclines toward Meri, her whisper almost imperceptible. There it is, she indicates. The truth he's hidden behind all these years. It was never about family. It was about control. The mask is cracking, and once it comes down, the truth will change everything. As Kody goes on, Robyn looks down at the table, her hands shaking. She's no longer certain, though, whether she's defending a husband or a legacy, and whether either is worth it. For the first time since trial has begun, Meri permits herself a small, almost imperceptible smile. It isn't victory, it's something more profound, a sense that the power dynamic is changing, and that she is no longer the one standing in the shadow. The judge declares that tomorrow's hearing will feature the reading of unidentified TLC communications, material reported to hold internal memos that could clear Kody or blow his defense out of the water. The courtroom has witnessed lies, tears, and half-truths, but what is about to be uncovered isn't a testimony. It's evidence. And evidence has no emotions, no favorites, and no compassion. The next day, the courthouse is abuzz, before even the doors open. Journalists stand in close clusters, their heads bent and muttering about the enigmatic TLC files to be brought before the court today. Nobody knows precisely what they contain, but everybody knows they may seal the fate of this case. Within, the air is charged with electricity. You can almost hear the beating of hearts in anticipation of every passing tick. Meri sits at the plaintiff's table, calm posture and sharp eyes, a woman poised to see decades of manipulation finally unravel in the public eye. At her side, Janelle pages through a fat notebook of notes, lips pursed tight. Across the aisle, Kody drums his fingers on the desk, an anxious, subconscious beat that gives away the tempest seething just under the surface. Robyn refuses eye contact with anyone, her eyes puffy from crying the previous night and her face white. Court is now in session, the judge announces, and the hush that falls is absolute. Meri's attorney steps forward, a silver flash drive in hand. "Your Honor," she says, her tone steady, "this evidence contains unreleased network communications between TLC producers and Mr. and Mrs. Brown. It was obtained via subpoena. The defense has had access to this material for 48 hours. The bailiff plugs the drive into the court's projector, and onto the big screen comes the first document, a plain email from January 2021. It's from a TLC executive to Kody. "We've double-checked with legal that land ownership documents must include all parties if the storyline of shared family heritage is to hold up on camera. Fans want parity, and we can't be accused of favoritism." The courtroom stirs. Kody fidgets. Another email appears, dated February 2021. This one from Kody to the same executive. "We're moving in a new direction. I've determined Robyn and I will take the legal aspect privately. The others will indirectly benefit through the show and family trust. They don't have to be part of ownership. It's one thing to break a promise. It's another to put it in writing." The courtroom erupts. Gasps, whispers. One woman in the gallery literally covers her mouth with her hands. Even the judge's normally impassive face gives a flash of surprise. "Mr. Brown," she says slowly, "is this your email?" Kody clears his throat. "It seems to be. Did you tell the other parties of this choice?" Kody pauses. "Not officially." The second piece of evidence is worse still. A production memo drafted several weeks before the land was transferred. In it, a TLC producer worries about how to deal with possible backlash if two wives discover their names are missing from the deed. Another response, supposedly from Robyn, reads, "Let's word it as a money issue. They weren't as attached. That way the audience will be able to comprehend better." Meri closes her eyes, bracing herself as the sting of betrayal grows deeper. Janelle sits rigid, her knuckles white on the tabletop. Kody's attorney attempts to interrupt, but the judge quiets him. "These are direct messages pertinent to motive and intent," she says. "They will stay in evidence. The story was never real. It was a script, and they were never intended to be equals." Cross-examination continues, and Meri's lawyer doesn't waste a moment. "Mr. Brown, is it accurate that you excluded Meri and Janelle deliberately while still leading the public on to think the land was for all four wives? I thought it was in the best interest of the family. Did you benefit from their continued presence on the show financially?" "Yes." "Did they contribute to the property fund?" "Yes." "And yet, you decided to exclude them from ownership altogether?" Kody sighs deeply. "Yes." The attorney addresses Robyn. "Mrs. Brown, you received these emails. You were a part of this decision to deceive the public and the family, weren't you?" Robyn's lips quiver. "I just followed what Kody believed was best. I trusted him. The attorney says again, tone slicing like glass, or empowered him. Robyn's silence speaks volume. Silence isn't innocence, it's consent. The last bombshell comes in the form of a secret producer note, one never intended to be seen. It discloses that TLC warned Kody that leaving out wives from ownership could constitute fraudulent misrepresentation if on-screen and legal deals were not aligned. Kody took heed of the warning and proceeded anyway. The judge leans forward. "Mr. Brown," she says sternly, "now this court is confronted with proof that you deliberately acted contrary to verbal, contractual, and fiscal obligations and profited by so doing. Do you want to change your testimony?" Kody's voice is a mere whisper. "No, Your Honor." For the first time, the patriarch is speechless, and in that silence his empire starts unraveling. The gallery is shocked. The decade-plus narrative that had been so carefully constructed, the polygamous family of love, the common dream, the shared inheritance, is revealed to be a deliberate manipulation, and the man who sat at its center is no longer above the law. The judge clears her throat to speak. Tomorrow, final closing arguments will be heard in this court and a preliminary decision made regarding damages, restitution, and possible forced sale of the Coyote Pass property. Kody reclines in his chair, his eyes empty. Meri exhales across the room, not out of relief, but for readiness. The finish line is approaching, and justice is closer than ever before. The air in the courtroom is thicker than ever, as if the weight of 3 decades of deceit is bearing down on all who are in attendance. What started as a struggle for land in the courts has morphed into a settling of accounts for trust, dignity, and what family means. The last day comes with a storm. Rain pings rhythmically against the courthouse windows, as if nature itself is playing along with tension inside. Reporters are waiting outside the doors before sunrise, cameras facing the entrance. Inside, the room is more crowded than it has been throughout trial. Estranged relatives, former fans, even far-off relatives who had once stood up for Kody's choices now sit silently, anticipating the end they never thought they would ever see. Meri enters without a piece of paper anywhere on her person. She no longer needs them. The evidence has done the job for her. Janelle is right behind her, eyes charged and resolute. In the corner of the room, Robyn is spent, mascara tracks dried on her cheeks from the previous night. And Kody. Kody is a shadow of the man he used to be. Gone are the swagger, the patriarchal confidence. What lingers is a man confronted with accountability. Court is now in session, the judge announces. The murmurs vanish. The world holds its breath. Meri's attorney steps forward to deliver closing argument. "Your Honor," she begins, voice calm but laced with fire, "this is not a case about property. This is a case about truth. About the commitments made to women who constructed a life, a legacy, and a family only to be erased from it all of a sudden. The proof is overwhelming. Mr. Brown employed joint income, contributions made by the family, and the public image shared with equality in order to make a fortune, while keeping out those very individuals who made such success possible. This isn't betrayal. It's fraud. And it's time the law does justice to that." She pauses, then addresses the gallery. For 30 years, Meri Brown was told to wait, to trust, to believe. But trust without transparency is exploitation. Today we ask this court to right what should never have occurred. This isn't revenge. It's reclamation. Of land, of voice, of self. The defense stands, grasping a story that's now threadbare. "Your Honor, Mr. Brown never acted with malice. He thought he was protecting the family. His motives were driven by duty, not greed." But the judge cuts him off. Duty does not justify exclusion. And protection is not protection if the people you say you protect are the very ones you're harming. The gallery leans in their seats. Even those who questioned Meri in the beginning can sense the tide turning. Robyn's attorney makes a last appeal. "My client sincerely regrets any misunderstanding." But the term misunderstanding does not ring true now. It resonates around the courtroom like a whopper that has been repeated one time too many. Then Meri stands to speak for herself. Not a plaintiff, not a victim, but a woman reclaiming her narrative. "I was promised loyalty mattered," she says, voice shaking but firm. "I was promised silence was strength. But no silence constructed houses. No silence obtained deeds. No silence shielded me. I had faith in a vision for family, a family that never existed for him. But here I am today, not to plead to be included, but to claim justice. The moment you stop asking to be valued is the moment you become unstoppable." The courtroom erupts in quiet tears. Even some jurors wipe their eyes. Robyn stares down at her lap, unable to meet Meri's gaze. Kody shifts uncomfortably, the weight of her words sinking deeper than any verdict could. The judge draws a deep breath and starts reading. This court finds adequate evidence that Mr. Kody Brown and Mrs. Robyn Brown committed acts of misrepresentation, concealment of funds, and violation of implied fiduciary duty. In addition, this court acknowledges that oral, emotional, and financial promises were made to Mrs. Meri Brown and Mrs. Janelle Brown, which were breached. A stunned silence descends as the ruling is issued. It is the order of this court that the Kody Pass property be reassessed and that Mrs. Meri Brown and Mrs. Janelle Brown be monetarily compensated at fair market value. Payment to be made within 90 days. If this stipulation is not fulfilled, then the property will be sold and the proceeds split evenly, 25% to each of the original 4 wives. For an instant there is quiet, absolute, gasping quiet, and then Meri breathes out. It isn't a spectacular gasp or a victorious shout. It's a small, firm breath, the sound of liberty. Janelle reaches out and squeezes her hand. Robyn, seated across the aisle, utterly collapses, sobbing into her hands. Kody glares at the floor, jaw agape, cannot speak. And just like that, the story he wrote about himself is no longer his to control. Outside the courthouse, the world responds in real time. Reporters surge forward. Cameras pop. Social media erupts. Headlines fill timelines. Meri Brown wins landmark case against Kody. Judge orders equal split in sister wives' property war. Justice at last. Meri is on the steps of the courthouse and confronts the camera. "I didn't do it to hurt anybody," she whispers. "I did it in order to not keep disappearing. And I want every viewer to understand, you're never too old, too exhausted, or too forgotten to begin again." Cheers rise up. Fans chant her name. For once the story is hers. As the credits on this chapter roll, a silent question hangs in the air. One only you, the people watching, can respond to. If you were standing in Meri's shoes, after all the betrayal, after all the silence, would you have walked away, or stood and fought for what was yours? Leave your answer in the comments section below. Because this tale isn't merely one of the Browns, it's one of every voice ever silent, and chooses at last to roar. The verdict was read, but the aftershocks have only just begun. What transpired within that courtroom was less a matter of legal vindication and the beginning of a reckoning that would shatter the Brown family to its core. Outside the courthouse building, the mayhem is instantaneous. Flashes of cameras and converging voices infuse the air as reporters throng the entrance steps, microphones raised like lances toward anyone who will talk. Headlines are already rolling across the internet. Social media streams erupting with the likes of #JusticeForMeri, #Coyote Pass Verdict, and #SisterWives Scandal. Meri and Janelle emerge together, side by side, no longer just sister wives, but allies who fought and won a war that was never supposed to happen. They're greeted by cheers and tears from supporters, some of whom have followed their story for over a decade. "We're so proud of you," one woman shouts. "You gave us courage," cries another. Meri sends a faint wave, her expression serene but firm. This isn't victory for her. It's closure. Kody stands in the back, unwilling to confront the camera. His lawyer begs him to say something, but he nods once. "Not today." His tone is low, nearly broken. The man who once strutted confidently on television screens now looks like a ghost of himself. The patriarch dethroned not by scandal or rumor, but by truth. Robyn clutches his arm, her face pale and streaked with tears. "We'll figure it out," she whispers. But Kody doesn't respond. For the first time in decades, he has nothing to say. When power is constructed on control, losing control is losing everything. Undefined. The news consume all the major news media for days. Morning shows analysis the legal implication. Lawyers refer to the decision as a landmark moment in spousal rights in non-traditional family arrangements. Opinion pieces discuss how reality TV obscured the distinction between entertainment and exploitation. And everywhere online, public opinion turns harsh against Kody and Robyn. Kody spent decades delivering sermons on equality and partnership, writes one op-ed. Now we see it was a play, and the true plot was betrayal. A second headline stings even more. "The man who wanted everything and lost everything." Meanwhile, ripple effects start to go viral, even within the Brown family itself. Some of the adult children, many who had kept quiet through the trial, begin to speak out. Gwendolyn tweets, "Mom and Meri were always right. They worked for that land." Leon makes a straightforward post on Instagram. Truth always prevails. Even some of Kody's sons, formerly fanatical, start to disconnect. "He built an empire off our lives," one of them posts, "and now that empire is falling apart." Executives have emergency meetings at TLC headquarters. The show that formerly painted a picture of unusual love and perseverance is currently a flashpoint for outrage. Sponsors threaten to withdraw their support. Fans are calling for answers. Whispers circulate that the network is weighing a complete overhaul, or worse, scrapping sister wives altogether. The courtroom may have delivered justice, but public opinion delivers the final sentence. But for Meri, all of that is irrelevant now. Throughout the weeks after the trial, she makes a conscious effort to avoid interviews and appearances on the media. She withdraws into something more subdued, something that's hers. She purchases a small cabin-style home in Park City, Utah, with part of her court-mandated settlement. It's not excessive or showy, but it's lovely in its simplicity. Every inch of it belongs to her. Every nail, every floorboard, every dawn breaking through the windows. One night, she goes live on social media from her new porch. "I wanted you all to see this," she whispers, panning the camera over the views. "It's not a house, it's a reminder that you can rebuild, that you can start over, no matter how late it seems." The comments roll in. "You're an inspiration. This is the real happily ever after. Thank you for demonstrating that departure is not weakness, it's strength." Sometimes the greatest revenge is building a life where betrayal has no place. In Flagstaff, meanwhile, Kody's existence is quite different. Filming with TLC is paused indefinitely due to creative restructuring. Robyn has retreated almost entirely from the spotlight. Paparazzi are seen snapping photos of her going about errands by herself, clearly distraught and sporting sunglasses over puffy eyes. Rumor has it that the marriage is under incredible stress, some even say they're living apart. But maybe the most poignant difference is Kody's loneliness. Once enveloped by wives, kids, and cameras, he now spends most days isolated in the sprawling house he once shared with Robyn. His phone doesn't ring often. Promotions for public appearances have disappeared. And every news article that includes his name is prefaced with thousands of seething comments. For a man who used to live for attention and power, anonymity is a worse fate than any judge could impose. This is what happens when the world sees the truth. They stop listening to the lies. But even amidst all the aftermath, Meri's message is unchanged. In an interview weeks later, only one she has given since the verdict, she distills it into one gut-wrenching sentence. "This was never about destroying someone. It was about reclaiming myself." The interviewer falls silent. "And do you feel you've done that?" Meri smiles, not a conquering smile, but a smile of quiet assurance. "Yes," she says. "For the first time in 30 years I finally feel free. But there is more to come." Whispers of an appeal start to circulate, hints that Kody and Robyn will not take defeat lying down. And although Meri may have won the battle, the war for truth, and for the reputation of the family, may only just be getting underway. Just when it seemed like everyone thought the war was won, a new battle line is established. The judgment rocks the globe. But for Kody Brown, capitulation was never an option. And this time around, the struggle is heading into bleaker, more desperate ground. 3 weeks following the historic ruling, peace remains elusive. The Brown family remains broken, the fan base splintered, and the media storm far from abating. But behind the public fallout, something else is simmering, something far more sinister. Late one night, court papers quietly emerge online. Kody Brown has appealed. The word gets around like wildfire. TV panels are filled with legal pundits. "It's a shot in the dark," one lawyer says. But Kody's attorneys are basically arguing that the initial decision was biased, that the court was out of line with treating oral promises as binding. Another pundit shakes her head. "They're not contesting the evidence. They can't. They're contesting the definition of family." Meri receives the news while having coffee on the porch of her new Utah cabin. At first she laughs, not out of humor, but disbelief. "Of course he appealed," she murmurs to herself. "He can't stand not having control." Janelle calls moments later. "We knew this was coming," she says, "but we'll fight it." Again. When abusers lose control, they don't apologize, they escalate. The appeal reopens old wounds and kindles new ones. On social media, Kody's last few remaining supporters circle the wagons around him. arguing the court overstepped and that men's property rights are being threatened. But most aren't buying it. Stop the appeal and justice for Meri and Janelle trend for days. Even diehard Sister Wives fans, who used to sympathize with Kody, are now calling him out. This isn't about land anymore. One commenter posts, it's about ego. In his interviews, Kody is still defiant. This case was founded on lies and manipulation. He tells a local news station in an interview, I supported this family. I created everything. I'm not going to let an unfair judge ruin my life's work. The video goes viral. Not for what he says, but because he sounds so defensive and bitter. It's like he still doesn't get it. One analyst adds, this was never about money. It was about accountability. In the meantime, Meri's attorneys start getting ready for their response. They are aware that the appeal will be challenging, not because Kody's arguments are sound, but because appeals are lengthy, debilitating, and costly. He's trying to wear you down. Janelle's attorney cautions, this isn't about winning in court anymore. This is about dragging it out until you break. Meri agrees. Then he'll be waiting a long time. Sometimes the greatest win isn't in the outcome. It's in not giving up after it. Behind the scenes, the appeal also uncovers something unexpected. New evidence. During discovery, Meri's attorneys request additional financial records from TLC and associated production companies. What they find is staggering. A hidden network of shell accounts linked to Kody and Robyn, where portions of show income were funneled without disclosure. Over $1.2 million was moved into these accounts over the years. Money that should have been part of the family trust. The revelation changes everything. This isn't just a property dispute anymore. Meri's lead attorney says grimly, this is potential financial fraud. They file a motion to include the new evidence in the appeal proceedings. If accepted, it could lead to a criminal investigation, something Kody's legal team is desperate to avoid. The conflict comes to a boil when Meri and Kody run into each other unexpectedly at a pre-appeal hearing. The tension is cold. Kody will not even look at her, his eyes fixed in front of him as if she is invisible. But Meri brushes right by him, stops for a moment, and murmurs softly, I'm not afraid of you anymore. He says nothing, but the expression on his face says it all. The fear he used to own is now absent. The moment you stop being afraid of someone's power is the moment they lose it completely. The media frenzy grows. Talk shows discuss whether Kody's popularity is justice or vendetta. Online petitions go around calling for TLC to sever all connection with him. Even former friends and supporters distance themselves. One family friend explains to a reporter, this isn't the same man we used to know. He's fixated on winning, even if it ruins everything. And yet, amidst the commotion, Meri is unruffled. She devotes most of her time to working as a volunteer at a women's legal aid foundation, telling her own tale to those who feel imprisoned in abusive relationships. If my case can be of help even to one person to find their voice, she tells a live Kunda, then all of this was not for nothing. In the meantime, Robyn is increasingly absent. Paparazzi shots have her walking into a lawyer's office alone. Rumors abounded that she had retained her own attorney, not to aid Kody's appeal, but to take care of herself if the financial probe proceeds. There's trouble in paradise, one gossip site declares. And it's not legal, it's personal. When secrets are constructed in the framework of an alliance, the secrets will ultimately destroy them. The final session ends in dramatic fashion. One night late, a confidential memo from TLC's lawyers is leaked by an anonymous source. In it, they reveal fears that to continue with the show would leave the network open to liability if more financial wrongdoing is revealed. The memo concludes in grim phraseology. If these charges are true, we can't have any choice but to freeze all the contracts with the Brown family, for good. The future is cloudy. The appeal hangs in the air. A possible criminal investigation is in the offing. And the family that took such pride in forever might be on the brink of an ending no one could have anticipated. The only question now is, will Kody double down, or finally throw in the towel? The courtroom battle was vicious. The appeal was desperate, but nothing, not even ego trip Kody, could get the Browns ready for what's next. Because this time it's no longer a family battle. It's the law closing in. It starts quietly, the way storms often do. with whispers and sealed documents. A week after Meri's legal team files their motion to include the newly discovered bank records, a letter arrives from the Arizona Department of Financial Crimes. It's brief, almost cold in tone. We are opening a preliminary investigation into allegations of misappropriation of shared funds and financial concealment. The moment Meri's attorney reads it aloud, the entire room falls silent. This, he speaks slowly, is not a civil issue anymore. It's criminal. The news strikes Kody with the impact of a freight train. For the first time, the man who always believed himself to be above it all understands that he may not lose money or land. He may lose his liberty. He storms into his attorney's office, slamming down a newspaper on the desk. "They're trying to destroy me," he bellows. His lawyer doesn't respond immediately. "Kody," he says carefully, "if there's proof that show income was hidden from the family trust, and if those funds were used without disclosure, this could escalate into charges. We're talking fraud, possibly embezzlement." Across town, Meri gets the same letter, but her response could not be more opposite. There is no victory dance, no triumphal smile, just a long exhale. "This wasn't about getting him into prison," she says softly. "It was about making him know he couldn't make us disappear." Janelle nods, face set in stone. "He made us disappear long before the money. This is just the part he can't spin his way out of." Once justice leaves the court of law and enters the criminal court, the narrative is altered, because now it is not about winning, it is about consequences. The probe spreads rapidly. Subpoenas are served, bank records are drawn, old emails, the ones Kody believed he erased, are dug out of cloud storage, and what they contain paints a heartbreaking portrait. Money from shared accounts pumped into Shell LLC, profits from businesses channeled into personal investment portfolio, and payments from TLC disguised as consulting fees to prevent division among the wives. More than $2.4 million is now unexplained. As the walls close in, Kody starts to break down in public. He rants on a live stream, blaming feminist courts and biased judges. He calls Meri and Janelle greedy, and accuses TLC of betraying him. But each furious rant just feeds public outrage. "He's digging his own grave," one legal expert says. "If I were his lawyer, I'd cut the camera and tell him to shut up." In the meantime, Robyn is in crisis mode. Paparazzi take photos of her visiting a different law office, one that deals with cooperation agreements. Speculations abound that she's negotiating a deal with investigators to evade charges herself. When cornered by reporters, she just utters, "I'm doing what I have to do to protect my children." When loyalty becomes liability, even the most devoted allies start saving themselves. Then the bombshell, an inside source, flips. A former Brown family accountant is willing to cooperate with investigators in return for immunity. Under oath, he testifies how Kody told him to keep things off the books and make sure the wives never saw the full numbers. He talks about meetings in which Kody told him to move money into accounts in Robyn's name. And most damning of all, he offers typed-up notes, in Kody's own handwriting, detailing a scheme to limit legal exposure by isolating the trust. The bombshells are disastrous. Meri's lawyer is shocked. "This is bigger than we thought," he says. "This isn't just about land. This is a systemic attempt to cut the women out of every financial decision for over a decade." Truth always has a trail, and once followed, there is no place to hide. The probe now has sufficient proof to bring in a grand jury. Subpoenas are issued to TLC executive, former producers, and even the family's accountant. In secret chambers, prosecutors consider their options. Could they indict a reality television star? Could they charge him and Robyn with financial offenses related to the show? The legal community abuzz with speculation. Meanwhile, Meri and Janelle try to keep their lives moving forward. Meri focuses on her cabin project, launching a small online boutique to rebuild her independence. Janelle begins working with a nonprofit that helps women secure legal representation in family disputes. "We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore," Janelle says during an interview. "We're fighting for every woman who was told her work and worth didn't count." But Kody's not finished yet. In a desperate bid to save his own skin, he issues a statement blaming Meri and Janelle for a coordinated smear campaign and implying TLC orchestrated the narrative for a ratings. The statement blows up in his face. Twitter erupts in a torrent of screenshots, legal documents, and court filings that disprove his argument. "Gaslighting won't save you this time," One viral tweet declares, facts, manipulation. When you construct your kingdom on deceit, the truth does not merely bring it down. It entombs. By session's end, the Brown surname, once identified with plural love and strength, is now identified with fraud, infidelity, and scandal. TLC quietly confirms that the series is placed on hold forever. Sponsors bail. Speaking engagements disappear. The world Kody created is disintegrating brick by brick. Late one night, there is a knock at the Brown home. When Kody answers the door, two federal agents are standing there. Mr. Brown, one of them informs him, flashing a badge. We must talk to you about a federal investigation into possible wire fraud and misappropriation of funds. And just like that, the narrative is shifted again. From a courtroom fight to a criminal probe that may leave you in handcuffs. It started with a promise that was broken and finished with a gavel. But before the last chapter is ever closed, the world will witness one final twist. One that nobody, not even Kody Brown himself, anticipated. The morning of the grand jury hearing breaks gray and chilly, an appropriate mood for the tempest that is to come. News vans line the streets outside the federal courthouse and reporters shout into camera. Protesters stand with signs reading justice for Meri and Janelle. Fraud has consequences and no one is above the law. No longer merely a family feud. It's now a national news story. Inside, the air is thick with tension. Kody walks in with his entourage of lawyers. Once authoritative gait, now a heavy, plodding shuffle. Robyn hangs back a few paces, her eyes puffy and red from restless nights. She grips a rosary in one hand, muttering prayers between clenched. On the other side of the corridor, Meri and Janelle sit with their lawyers. They share a subdued nod, not of victory, but of support. The courtroom is silent as the federal prosecutor takes the stand. Ladies and gentlemen of the grand jury, this case is about betrayal, not only of trust, but of the law. It's the story of how public face, earnings, and family obligations were perverted into a personal fiefdom. It's about deception so brazen it reached from unethical into criminal. The evidence is incriminating. The hidden accounts, the doctored tax returns, the email directing an accountant to minimize visibility of shared funds. Worse still, a financial transfer disguised as consulting fee to an offshore account associated with one of Kody's LLC. The jury members look at one another. Everyone knows what this implies. This isn't merely fraud. This is federal wire fraud. When greed goes across state lines, it's no longer a mistake, and becomes a crime. Then comes the surprise to everyone. Robyn gets up on the stand. Not as a co-defendant, but as a cooperating witness. Gasp spreads throughout the room. I didn't want it to go this far, she says, her voice shaking. I trusted him, I believed everything he told me. But I can't protect him anymore. Not after what I've seen. She hands over a series of encrypted messages between herself and Kody. Messages in which he explicitly instructs her to move funds before Meri starts snooping and keep paperwork vague. Kody's face drains of color. His own wife, the woman he once called his soulmate, has just detonated his defense. The betrayal cuts deeper than anything Meri or Janelle ever did. I'm sorry, Robyn whispers, tears streaking down her cheeks. I was complicit, but I'm done being silent. Silence can protect a liar, but eventually it becomes a confession. The grand jury deliberates for several hours. The media assembles outside like vultures around a carcass. At last, the doors open. The foreperson stands and pronounces the verdict. We, the members of the grand jury, find probable cause to indict Mr. Kody Brown on charges of wire fraud, tax evasion, and misappropriation of joint funds. A room full of gasps echoes through the air. Kody's knees wobble. He clings to the table to stay upright. The judge's voice is stern. Mr. Brown, you will have to turn your passport over right away. Bail is being set pending trial. The formerly invincible patriarch is now a criminal defendant. Outside the courthouse, pandemonium prevails. Cameras pop. Microphones converge. Reporters scream questions. Do you have anything to say, Mr. Brown? Did you swindle your family? Do you regret it? Kody remains silent. His face is a picture of shame and anger. Robyn hurries behind him, under cover of her lawyers. Meri and Janelle, at the head of the courthouse stairs, stand in silence as he disappears into a waiting vehicle. Power founded in dishonesty will ever fall. And when it does, it will bury the deceiver under its wreckage. Months after the trial commences, Kody enters not guilty to all counts, but the evidence is incriminating. Robyn testifies against. The former accountant gives his testimony. TLC executives give their testimony. Even the producer of the show testifies, describing how Kody bullied the network into crafting storylines around a fabricated picture of harmony. The prosecution refers to it as a reality show built on lies and financed by theft. Ultimately, the jury delivers its verdict, guilty on all substantial charges. Kody Brown is sentenced to 14 years in federal prison and ordered to forfeit $3.8 million in restitution to Meri, Janelle, and the family trust. The formerly vast Coyote Pass property is confiscated and auctioned off. The Brown empire, once a reality TV phenomenon, is taken apart atom by atom. Now Justice is the new author of the tale he attempted. Life goes on, but nothing is the Robyn moves quietly away with her children, steering clear of the limelight. Christine, who had long since moved on, releases a brief statement. Sometimes, walking away is the most powerful thing. Janelle begins a non-profit for women looking toward economic independence after abusive relations. Meri begins a foundation focused on legal education for spouses of informal marriage. And what about Meri herself? She never glances back. Sitting on the porch of her Utah cabin a year later, a cup of coffee in one hand, a sunrise tinging the sky. In a tender interview, she softly about her past. I lost 3 decades, she says quietly. But I found myself, and that's worth more than any land or lawsuit. The camera sweeps over the mountains as she speaks one last thought. People will say this story is about a man who fell, but it's not. It's about women who rose. Justice isn't just about punishment, it's about transformation, turning silence into strength, and betrayal in. The screen fades to black. The story ends where it always should have, with Meri free, powerful, and unafraid. And as millions watch the final broadcast, one question lingers. If you were presented with the opportunity to rewrite the narrative of your life, would you be brave enough to take up the pen? Was justice really served, or did Kody get away? Your voice counts, just like Meri.